So here we are, live for our third episode with the Branding Co. Justin Cooper. I'm Coach Buddy. Super excited to be coming to you live tonight for our final episode. Or maybe we might do a couple more, but it's going to be our final episode. And what we've really put together today is something that's going to absolutely blow your mind. So what I would definitely suggest is schedule some time out, maybe for the next 20 to 30 minutes, and really just pay attention why I bring the expert. And I don't say that lightly, but he's the expert. He's the branding expert on really helping you identifying your true purpose, helping you identify your personal brand, whether it be for business or your personal life. Really like just stepping outside the normal or stepping outside the box or your comfort zone to really help you propel and move you forward to new heights. Last week he spoke about, being different, wearing a purple hat. And, is quite a funny guy. And Justin, put two masks on. And he said, we often wear two masks. One mask is, maybe for the professional life, work, things that happen outside of your home. And then when you come home, you wear a completely different mask again. So really shared that down. Broke it down to a few different steps. And if you want to know more about that, if you head over to our YouTube channel, Buddy Up, and you'll also be able to see those pre-recorded videos there. If you want to know more from Justin, reach out to him, Justin Cooper, or the Branding Co. I know on Instagram is Justin Cooper, and everywhere else it's the Branding Co. So just find him. Google's your best friend. And what I really want to bring to your attention today is we're not doing a cooking show, but it's really about defining your secret recipe. What is your secret recipe? What makes you successful? Or better still, like, what are the key ingredients that you need to make you successful? And I'm going to really pass this on to Justin. But as you're logging in, let us know in the comments below whether you're listening to this live or if you're listening to this as a replay, and where you're tuning in from, because it's something that definitely excites us each and every week when we see different people tuning in from all over the place. So let me just reframe something again. It's not the brand purpose, it's Brand Purpose Co. All right, so Brand Purpose Co. So I'm going to pass it over to Justin. Justin, are you ready to rock and roll? Are you fired up? Cool. All right, please help me welcome Justin. Hey, mate.
Hey. How you going, buddy? Yeah, I'm good. I'm just adjusting my mic so people can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. You're looking nice and fresh, mate. What have you done differently? Got a haircut? Had a shave?
No, I was out celebrating my 23rd anniversary on Monday.
Wow.
Out cycling and kayaking, got a bit of sun. So, yeah, hopefully looking a bit healthier.
Fantastic. That's amazing, mate. 23 years of marriage.
I know. I'm worried that my wife is suddenly going to develop a sense of taste and get her eyesight back and take me back to the shop, but it hasn't happened yet.
What's your number one tip for a good, successful marriage?
Oh, never go to sleep on an argument.
Love it. Powerful.
Our vicar told us that on day, and we may have done it a couple of times in 23 years. But I remember his sermon, and he said to us, "If I can give you one piece of advice," and that was it, and that stayed with us.
Wow, amazing.
So even if you're having a bad time, you're arguing, make up before you go to bed.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
There you go.
Oh, good. And congratulations, and for another 30 years.
Yeah, let's hope. But another 30, not quite there yet. 23. But yeah, here's another 23.
And that's it. Well,
so today we're talking about recipes, and as you say, it's not actually a cooking show, but there's a lot of analogies here between people in business and people cooking, because people think that the raw ingredients of our lives are all put together when we're born and when we go through schooling. But as I've touched on before in these chats with you, I believe that we kind of only really work out what we're about later in life. And I think that a lot of what we do is part of who we think we are is passed on to us by well-meaning parents and people that we work with, mentors that we might work alongside. And they have a view of who you are. And that can be helpful, but it can also miss some key elements. So this session today is really just talking about tapping back into what's your secret recipe and what are the raw ingredients that you bring to your business or your work that really make a difference. And the first thing I'd say, and I'm sure you're with me on this, buddy, is that the key to this is to remember the old maxim, be yourself, everyone else is already taken. Now, I've raised this before in one of these chats with us, but you know what? That is such an important thing for us to remember, that when we're searching for our uniqueness in the market, or we're trying to make an impression on a prospect that we're working with, or we're developing a new program for a product or a service, look inside. It's so important because there's only one you. So if you can work out what that is, then you can pass that on to your clients. Because here's the kicker: people buy from people. Yeah, they don't buy nefarious products and services, just the brand. They actually buy from people. And even if it's a huge brand, behind that brand are people that made it what it is, right? Yep. So particularly important, obviously, if you're a small business or you're a solopreneur, it's that remembering that you are selling to people and they're buying you as a part of that service or the product. Very important.
Yeah.
And I've heard you talk about this a lot too.
Yeah. And I think it's such an amazing topic. And I think sometimes I think to myself, what is a way that everybody can understand it? Like, I understand your language when you say to them, you just got to go inside. So like, and other people think, well, go inside. Like, what are they talking about? Like, maybe we can, what's a better way to articulate that to help people understand what it means to go inside, to, really silence the mind?
Yeah. Well, as you know, but not necessarily people watching this, I have built a business in the last 8 years on the power of mindfulness and meditation as a business tool. A lot of people know about meditation as a great way to still your mind and to de-stress, but I believe, and I've shown, that it can actually be a really powerful tool to give you some real insights into what makes you unique and what you bring to the party. So a simple exercise is to get away from your laptop, your computer, your smartphone, sit somewhere quiet. If you're not in lockdown, then get yourself down to a park or a beach or somewhere where you're away from your working environment. By all means, bring your phone and sit there and just breathe. And when I say breathe, we all know how to breathe, but most of us don't breathe for relaxation. So when we're concentrating, we're in the shallow breathing mode. Yeah. When you want to relax, it's a slow in breath in and a slow controlled breath out. And that's the foundation for all mindfulness and meditations. It's the breath work.
So is it the breath into the mouth or breath into the nose?
In through the nose. Well, different rules for different folks. I use the nose breathing technique. If you've got a cold, you can't do that. So you breathe through your mouth. But if you haven't and you're okay, then breathe through your nose. So breathe slowly, like for a count of 5. So nice, slow. So on the count of 5 in your head, hold it for a second, 2, and then release. But don't go, like that. Just let it out slowly for a count of 5. And it's this slow in and out breath that actually oxygenates you in a way that you don't get oxygen when you're stressed, right?
Yep.
But it also allows you to still your mind and go inside. And for most people, that means closing your eyes. So you're sitting on this park bench and you're relaxing, Hopefully it's a nice day. There's a bit on your face. We're in the southern states here. We've got some winter happening, right? It's a bit chilly. So it's good to get out and get a bit of sun. And you feel the sun on your face, and you just do this exercise, and you might do 5 of these slow in and out, 5 seconds in through the nose, 5 seconds out through that. Control is the key, and you will find that your mind starts to clear. You might have, lists. Your conscious brain's going to go, hang on, what you're doing, get on with your work. You just still that and say, okay, just let go. I have a little mantra that I use. 3 words, just let go. So you have this, just let go, just let go. Instructions for your thinking brain, just let go, just let go. And if you do that a few times, you'll find it easier each time. What you can then do on top of that is layer a question. You can pop a question in before you start your little exercise. It's like, how do I do this? Or what should I be thinking about this? If you've got a challenge or a problem, or you've got an opportunity. You can do this simple exercise, and you'll start to get ideas from your subconscious, from a deeper part of your head, your brain. And that's really useful process for trying to unlock what it is you do that's a little bit unique. So that would be one suggestion. In fact, you've created an extra tip. I've got 4 here, but there's a 5th one, right? We'll start with that one. Get yourself to a park, relax, close your eyes, do the breathing technique, and ask yourself, what is it that I do that makes a difference? What's my secret ingredient? And you'll get some ideas coming to your head. Now, if you've never done this before, you might start thinking, oh my God, I've got voices in my head. Or you might discount it and go, oh, well, I'm just making stuff up. But you'll be amazed at how this little tip can give you some new information that was always there. So it's not really new, but it's new to your conscious thinking brain. So that's the first thing. It's like that connection. So yeah, that's what I mean by mindfulness. That's what I mean about going inside, because we spend so much of our time thinking stuff through, working from this part of your brain, which is the concentration brain, which is obviously very important when you're trying to work a problem out or a challenge or working out how to do something. That's the part of the brain that we use, the cognitive, the prefrontal cortex. This bit, this sort of thing that differentiates us from the animals, as we keep saying. But it's at the detriment, if we're using this the whole time, it's at the detriment to the stuff back there, the emotional and the intuitive brains. Because people talk about having 3 brains. There's a thinking, there's an emotional feeling, and then there's an intuitive at the back. So that simple exercise of breathing and doing a really quick meditation, and this could take 10 minutes, right? You'll start to get new information. It's new to your thinking brain. Once it's in your thinking brain, you can use it. That's a great thing. Because, what do you do with that information? Oh, well, that's when your cognitive, rational brain kicks in. You go, oh, I could do that. I could do this. Very useful. But you can't necessarily get those ideas unless you switch this off.
Exactly.
So that would be my first tip. Now, the second tip would be talk to your happiest customers. Yeah. So when you have an amazing testimonial, or you have someone that really congratulates you on an amazing job and thanks you for it, ask them 3 questions after you've finished the exercise and you've delivered the product or you delivered the service, and they're really happy with it, right? So this is a keeper. This is someone that you want to turn into a raving fan, right? This is the one you want to get a testimonial from, and you want them to tell their friends and their colleagues. Question number 1, why did you pick me? Why didn't you pick someone else? Why did you select me? What was it about me that made you choose me? Very important information. And it's lost, right? Because on the journey, they've already made that decision. They've bought from you. You've provided them a service, or you've sold them a product, and they've fed back that they're happy. You've done some customer service on it. Bang. But in the scheme of things, right, it was a long time from point A to point B. So you're going to ask them to go back to point A and say, well, you know what? I think it was this, and take notes. So that's the first question. Why did you pick me? Secondly, how did I do things differently? to someone that you've worked with before who's offering either a similar service or a different service, but someone you really enjoyed working with? What was it I did that was a little bit different? And that's a really important question, because we can't see what we can see most of the time, right? We just assume the world operates in the way that we operate, and it doesn't, right? We just have this way of thinking that's built on our beliefs and our experiences, and that's how we experience the world, through a filter. So it takes someone else to say, oh, you did this, because most of us can't actually take our faces off and go, yeah, how was it for you, right? So you've got to ask that third party. So that's a very important question. How did I do things a little bit differently? And lastly, what did I do to make a difference to you? Yeah, what did I do to make a difference? Yes, I did all the things that you wanted me to do. I did all the things that you were looking for, and you were very happy with it. But what was the thing that I did that really made the difference? And I think with those three questions of your customers, most of us don't ask those questions. We just say, look, could you very kindly write me a testimonial? What was your experience like? It's an open-ended question, and quite often it takes them like 2 weeks to come back to you. You're actually better off asking specific questions for when you're building a testimonial.
To ask them these questions so that you can then get them to write a testimonial, but they're thinking about these key questions, these three key questions.
Yeah, for two reasons. One, you can get them to write a great testimonial because you've given them some guidelines. Most people say, can you write me a testimonial? And what happens normally is they go, yeah, sure, absolutely. And then they put it to the bottom of their list and they think, oh, I've got to concentrate. I've got to think about it, you know? Yes. Whereas if you're giving them these three questions, it makes it much easier for them to think about how to reply.
Yes.
And do it soon after you finish the exercise so it's fresh in their mind. So yeah, it's a great formation for a testimonial. But back to this question of how do you define your secret ingredient? It's actually going to give you some really powerful intel about the way you work, how you make a difference, and why people decide to work with you. And that's all in that mix of this mysterious thing called your secret recipe. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's tip number 2, asking your customers. Tip number 3. Now, this is an exercise for yourself to do, right? Think back to that time when you provided an amazing experience, and think and allow one customer to come to you. Close your eyes before you do the exercise, right? When we keep our eyes open, I had this on a other day, someone I was working with. A question, looked up to the left, then they looked up to the right. Yeah. Now, when we look up to the left, we're trying to recall something from the past. When we look up to the right, we're trying to imagine something for the future, right? And it's all done through this filter, right? This very clever part of the brain that's brilliant at doing some things, but not so good at doing other things. In fact, it's crap at doing other things, just between you and me. So close your eyes and visualize. Try and visualize. Some of us are visual, some of us kind of get a feeling. One's called clairvoyant, the other one's called clairsentient. Some people are clairaudient. They get an idea in their head. Sounds like there's someone's talking to them. I think they're going mad. But close your eyes and think back to who am I? Who's going to help me with this? Who did I really love working with, and they loved working with me? And allow that person to kind of materialize in your brain. And it probably is going to be a different person to the one that you would have recalled or thought forward about. You know, looking at the eyes here, looking up. It's gonna give you something deeper, something that's more important. Now you can ask yourself 2 deep questions. Ready for the deep questions, right?
Yeah.
Drum roll. What were the key ingredients that made this interaction with the customer so successful? What were the key ingredients? So again, what was the situation? How did they show up at the time? How were you in that moment when you had your aha moment with this person? What was going on? What were the key ingredients? What were you adding to the mix? So it's external, internal, But because you're doing this in a kind of meditative state, you don't need to overthink it. Just ask the question, what were the ingredients? And that's the thing about the subconscious. It'll actually give you answers without you having to explain it really carefully. Because sometimes the rational brain needs you to put one sentence after the other. We think the rational brain is so bloody clever, but sometimes it's a bit slow.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it can't pick up the subtleties, right? So again, you've got your eyes closed and you're thinking about this. What were the key ingredients that made this interaction so successful? That's the first question. And the second question is, what are the elements? What elements did I add to make it my very own recipe? What elements did I add to make it my very own recipe?
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you go through this exercise, you're going to get some new information. And this is the interesting thing. It's going to be additional information to the information your customer will give you.
Right.
Because we have a knowing within us about what really makes us unique that is a secret to our customers most of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're using that amazing magic. We're using the special recipe. It works, and our customers spot a couple of ingredients. But we actually, the ones that know more than our customers about how this thing works, but not if we ask our rational brain. The rational brain doesn't have a Scooby, as my mate used to say. Hasn't got a Scooby. Hasn't got a Scooby-Doo clue, right? Good old rhyming slam. Hasn't got a Scooby. Doesn't know. So you need to ask a different part of your brain. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3. Well, this is probably a bit obvious, but look around, look at your competitors, right?
Yeah.
See what those other people are doing out there, but ask a couple of different kind of questions. Question number 1 is, what is the one thing they're doing that you would never do? What is the one thing?
To ask this with yourself, to analyze yourself.
Analyze. Look at the website. If you're devious, be a fictitious customer and test their call center, whatever you want to do, or ask a friend to, or your partner. It's a bit easier. But you can actually get a huge amount of intelligence from people's websites.
Yes.
So look at that. Look at their marketing materials. Look at their logo. You can get some info from that. What's the one thing they're doing that I would never do? That's important because you wouldn't necessarily think about that, right? You're not looking at competitors, and I encourage you not to stare at your competitors. I think it's unhealthy. I think this is something I learned early on when I was back in the day, 30 years ago, when I was working in my first bit over 30 years ago, working for a big company, and they were obsessed with market share. So I was working for a large global company selling household products, and the obsession with market share was ridiculous. I had the managing director come into our marketing team office. There were about 20 of us in there, and he would go to each cubicle. We had an open plan office. Go to each cubicle and say in a kind of mid-Atlantic accent, "Geez, Justin, what's the current market share in so-and-so of your brand X?" And you'd go, "Oh, I'm glad you asked me that, because someone had warned you the guy was going to come do a walkthrough." He said, "Quick, check the Nielsen figures." Nielsen put out these market share figures, and it's like, right, quick, look at it. And then you'd have the answer for the country, what the figure was. But then he'd ask you a particular region. I was working in the UK, and he'd say, how about in Wales and the West? And you go, "Oh, well, yes." And then you just make something up, right? If you had a quick answer, he'd go, "Great." He wasn't going to go and check it. So there is quite a lot, a bit of an aside, but I think we do get a little bit obsessed sometimes about our competitors. And really, the secret ingredient is all about you and what you do. However, by looking at them, you can ask yourself, what's the one thing they do that I'd never do? And the other question is, how do I approach things in my own unique way? So that's what I would never do. And this is what I always do. Perhaps they don't. Yeah.
Right.
So again, you're pushing against something now. It's actually quite easy to tease some of that stuff out. If you found the meditation stuff a bit challenging, you weren't getting a lot there. My advice there, of course, is keep practicing. It's like anything. It's like going to the gym. I can't bench press what you can, mate. And it would take me many, many years if I could. But your practice, you're going to bench press more, right? You keep at it, the muscle will build, it'll tear and it rebuild, it'll tear, rebuild, and you can push more. So yeah, looking at your competitors can be useful as long as it doesn't become an obsession. Yep.
Yeah. And you don't want it to pull you down, right, Justin, when you're looking at your competitors, like look at your competitors and say, right, look, they're doing all this. I don't know if I can do that, or I don't know if we have the capability, or I don't know if I'm that type of person to jump on and do a quick live video and stream it live. Like I'm just not that person. So that also, we have to be mindful of that, right? Because we can
absolutely
analyze our competitor, analyze what they're doing, analyze the service they're providing, the cost of that service, how quick they're making the sales, how quick they're returning their calls. But then also, as a negative, we can look and say, well, maybe we're just not that good enough, or maybe we can't be like that. So it can also be a real negative if we focus on.
Yeah, it can be. Hero worship can get into our heads, and you know, oh, I wish on that or something. No, I want people to go into this after doing the other exercises, so they're feeling strong, they're feeling clear about their uniqueness. And from that position, that's why I've got this as number 3, not number 1. From that position of strength, you can then say, well, actually, I can get quite critical now. They're doing something I would never do. And I think that's wrong. And it might be, you know, a values thing. Like they're not providing a money back guarantee. I think that's wrong. I would never refuse that if the customer's not enjoyed the experience. Of course, give them a full refund if they've, you know, been through the steps of buying it and they've tried it and it's genuine. Then that's an example of something you personally would never do. And again, from this position of power, and you've built yourself up and you've looked within, as we said earlier, you can then you can go, actually, that's interesting. They're not doing that. They're not doing something that I kind of take for granted, right? But actually, that's pretty cool. They're not doing that, and I do that, and so that's important. Maybe that's one of the ingredients, and I missed it because we're making this cake every day of the week, but we never stop to look at the ingredients or how we're making it. If you stop to work out how you're riding a bike, you're going to slow down so quickly you fall off, right? That's why we don't stop sometimes to look. But here's an example where you can slow the process down, look at it and say, well, what is in the tank? What is in that cake? What are the key elements? Very useful.
Yeah.
All right, so I've left the cookie one for last, right? Talking of cakes and cookies. So here's a slightly different approach. Ask yourself, if I were an animal, what animal would I be? Yeah, because it's a really powerful metaphor for the kind of personality you are and the kind of strength you have, and it's a really interesting and powerful building block to help understand how you do things differently.
Right.
And again, I would go into that relaxed state. I would do with the eyes closed, do some breathing, and don't think about it and go, well, I already know the answer. Yeah. You actually relax and you allow the answer to come to you. Now, I've actually created something to help people do that. And I'd like to offer that to your listeners, your viewers. So I can provide a link. So it is one of these simple relaxation exercises. It's a bit of music, my voice, and you imagine going to a place where you'll actually meet this animal. And over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I have done this with about 150 people. And I've now logged, I think, just under 100. I forgot to log the first 50, but I'm now logging them. So I've got this sort of list of animals that people are getting. And it's fascinating how when you get your animal, and I encourage people, if they do this, there's a link, then they'll go to a site, there's a connection point, message me, and I will actually provide a free fact sheet on the animal. So it gives you some really important intel about who you are. So this is something I normally only provide to my customers if they come on my program, but I'm really happy to provide that to you and your connections, because I think this is a really important exercise to do. It sounds cookie, it sounds out there, But some of the testimonials I've got as a result of people doing this animal totem is amazing. There's this guy I work with, and he got a kangaroo, right? Which is interesting because he's not even Aussie. He's a Brit, right? And he gets this kangaroo, and he looks at the facts about this. And one of the interesting things about a kangaroo is it cannot go backwards, and that's one of the reasons it's on the national emblem of Australia.
Right, I didn't even know that.
Never take a step back because the tail gets in the way. It can only move forward, right?
Yeah, right.
And I think it's the same with is it the emu? The emu and the kangaroo? Someone's going to have to correct me here. But neither animal goes backwards, and that's one of the reasons we selected it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and he said, God, that's amazing. I never go back to an old project or an old house or an old girlfriend, or I never go back. Always got to be pushing forward. And I've always got to feel like I'm leaping. And the process he takes people through, he's a graphic designer, but he's much more than that. He's a brilliant business person, understanding how brands work. And his main medium is visuals. He started his life as a graphic designer. Right. And he has an ability to see the world in a very different way to most of us. But he couldn't see that. I said earlier, unless we could take our faces off and look at ourselves, we don't know how we do stuff. We just do it automatically.
Yeah.
And the totem allowed him to really realize some of the amazing benefits he had. Some of the amazing qualities he had and why he did things in a certain way. And he was able to then add that to his brand story and to his website, and not necessarily saying I'm a kangaroo, but he took these elements of how he works and he actually put it into a business sense. And all of a sudden, when you looked back at it, at the time, he was the only designer out there using this kind of language, and it really allowed the right people to come to him. And it really defined his uniqueness. So, part of this exercise of understanding your secret ingredient is using something like a metaphor such as an animal, because it really is useful intel for us to go, oh, okay, that's how I really am. So, yeah.
Very interesting. I love that. That's really good. And once like, for instance, your last client that discovered that he was a kangaroo, so he took the features of a kangaroo and then he put them into.
So he took what he took was the fact sheet that I gave him. So I pull off information from the web and I put it into a little 2-pager that talks about your personality traits, your strengths. It talks about how you best work, and this really, he was able to then apply it to his business and realize that a lot of the marketing he was doing, even though he's a brand expert himself, often it's the plumber has the leakiest pipes, and we don't work on our own stuff. He realized with me showing him, saying, look, you're saying something that reflects what people would expect a branding expert to do, but you don't even do that. That's what everyone else does. You do this. Look at the fact sheet back to how you really work and how you rethink and how you approach stuff. And that's actually more valuable, but of course it actually reflects how you're unique. So you're naturally unique. You're not having to make something up. Because the trouble is, a lot of people think, oh, I've got to wow, and I've got to go out and say something amazing about me. I'll have to kind of like make something up, or I'll try and play back to the market what someone else is doing. No, you're naturally unique. You're already unique, but it's this internal evaluation that needs to happen so you can start to effectively take your face off and look at yourself a bit more and go, okay. But unless you do this internal work, this thinking, yes, there's a little bit there in the second tip about talking to your clients, but most of it is a self-analysis process. And that's where the gold comes.
And I think it's scary for some people, Justin. Like, some people don't actually want to get off a sales call that, let's just say I had a prospect come in, I just made the call. Not many people want to get off that call and actually think to themselves, well, how did I go? How long was I talking for? What was the outcome? How could I have done it better? Because not because they don't want to know the truth, but just because they don't focus on it. They don't
Yeah.
think it's important. It's like, I'm busy. I was going to make the next phone call.
Yes.
Just like what you said, 5 minutes of breath work, and the next 5 minutes just visualize and start to think about what you actually want to happen. And everything else becomes so much more easier to do. And it's like making those phone calls, as I said, as an example, is you can make 100 phone calls a day and only get 10 sales. Or you can make the first 10 phone calls and pause after every phone call and have a digestion of, digress what you did, how you said it, sharpen your pencil, go again. It might take you a little bit longer the first 10, but then your success rate becomes 100 out of 100. I feel it's the same thing with what you've said today about defining your secret recipe. Like people go, well, I don't have time to ask myself that question. I don't have time to analyze my competitor. I don't have time to do that. But it's what you're saying. Just have coffee with yourself. Just have a cup of coffee. Just relax. Just relax. The answers are within. You've just got to silence the mind, look within, ask yourself some really good questions, and then move forward. And you can really identify.
Go for a walk, put some relaxing music on your headphones, and just digest as you said, digest what's happened. What were the high points? What were the low points? It's amazing how a bit of internal reflection can actually build a much more successful performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Justin, you're an absolute champion.
My pleasure, buddy. Really enjoyed this journey with you.
Yeah, it's been really good. We've had a lot of inbox messages of people saying to us, they thought we're going to be on Monday and we're on Wednesday today. And I'm like, no, we're coming on Wednesday. So it's going to be really good. What is the best way for people to get this, fact sheet, to get this link that you're talking about, to discover, what animal they are, discover themselves? Should they just head over to Brand Purpose?
No, I can provide the link here at the end of this call, if that's useful, and Absolutely. So they can get it. You can put it in the chat box. If I put it in the chat box here,
yes, perfect.
And perhaps you can share that.
Yep.
So it's a hidden page on my website.
Yep.
And so it's brandpurpose.co, and then there's a bit of detail afterwards, animal totem visualization. Now. So if you share that with your, share it there. And if you can put it in the comments as well on the YouTube clip. Is the YouTube clip available after the event?
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So perhaps pop it in the comments.
Yeah.
And as I said, if people are going to do this, please message me. There's details on how to contact me on that page. Tell me what you got, and if you'd like a fact sheet, very happy to offer that. I'm expecting a huge deluge now of fact sheets. If I get a lot of them and it's not an animal I haven't come across, it might take a little while, but I will respond to everyone who sends that through. As I say, it's a short exercise. The recording lasts 11 minutes from memory, after which there's 8 to 9 questions, which you answer from immediately. It's what, don't think too hard about it. It's what you got. So it's actually one of the easiest questionnaires you're ever going to answer. And it's fun. That's the feedback I've got. I had this wonderful situation where a lady got an elephant. And during the visualization, she visualized trying to push this damn elephant back through this door, going, I don't want a bloody elephant. But you know what? When I sent her the fact sheet and she talked to her husband, he read this thing. He went, damn, that is you down to a T. How on earth? So so in terms of the when you think of elephant, you think, oh, it's big and it's large and it's going to be overweight and all that rest of it. We think of those associations, but in fact, the elephants are extremely intuitive. They're methodical, how they work. They have a higher degree of intelligence. We're only really starting to understand a lot about the elephants. I mean, for instance, they eat rocks. I was watching this on a nature program. They go off in the middle of the night and they put this camera. They didn't know where they were going. What they were doing, their fronts up against rock and actually taking minute amounts of minerals off. And that was an important part of their diet. And the scientists had no idea, right? So there's all kind of attributes about these different animals that people get that are deeper, and they relate to your personality. So it's not just what you see is what you get. There's something deep, and that's why it's important to to request the fact sheet so you can get a little bit more intel about it.
Absolutely, love it, Justin. You're a champion, and you've dropped gold the last 3 weeks. You've given us a lot more than what we expected, what we came for, and I
thanks,
hope
buddy.
Get spread out to many people, and they can reach out to you and understand more about how you can help them identify their true purpose in life and their secret recipe, and taking off the masks and so many of the things that you've shared with us. They've got that direct connection with you now, and I thank you so much for your time. I know you're super busy.
My pleasure.
Congratulations again on your wedding anniversary, 23 years. You gave us. You started off with so that's been awesome.
Well, as my stepfather said, it would say 23 years to get less for murder these days.
Exactly.
But it's been wonderful. So thank you very much for the opportunity, but I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome, Justin. Thank you so much, mate. I'll talk to you real soon. All right, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.